Soon as we step on the mic, man, you notice the difference. Heavenly blessed with the melanin, baby, you know that we winning. No time for the long talk, got 120 on the clock. Wednesday, 8 through 10, all the bad vibes better stop. Cause you gotta come with that energy. Casual combos, baby, come down and just sit with me. Lil' Coco be spitting that remedy. Casual combos, baby, come down and just sit with me. You better take this shit serious. She dropping knowledge on hitting it's free for the play. Tap in right now if you curious. We got the ham radio going lit every A. We go from people to family to pilots. Stay with me if you got something to say. You know it's important if we go acknowledge. Speak on the business and get out the way. What you gonna say about my mama? She winning, you rockhead.
Hello, welcome to the Casual Convo Show, where we have conversations about topics that affect the communities, business, and personal relationships. We always have the casual convo, so you don't have to have a tough convo. I'm your host, Coco, and joining me is the lovely Adora. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Coco. What a delight to be with you this evening here.
Now I'm happy
with
to
all
have
of you.
I'm happy to have you. So before we get started, I'm just going to apologize. Bosco is not here today. He's a little under the weather, so we're going to keep him in prayer and uplifted for that. So you stuck with me for the day. So I know we have a lot to cover. So I'm just going to dive into it. Well, how are you?
I am fantastic. Awesome. How are you?
I'm great. So I guess I can go into the mental health check-in is how we always start the show, and then we can go right in and you can tell everybody about yourself and everything like that. Sound good?
Awesome.
Okay, so my mental health check-in is this was a good week. I'm finally, I don't know if I told you, transitioning back to work after being off for like a couple of months due to like an accident and things like that. So the first week was really, really rough. This week it was better, I guess, like what I do, making sure like pretty much putting out fires and doing all kinds of stuff. I was in my own head overthinking a lot. But today was a good day. I feel good. Got my vitamins and all of that good stuff. So today was a good day, way better than last week. How about you?
Well, first of all, let's celebrate the improvement because isn't life so much more about progress versus perfection? I think this is the reminder that always comes to me, and I like to bring into my conversations with my two daughters. But this week is pretty fantastic. I am a sun worshiper. So this return of the sun and the warmth for me, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, like our dear Bosco. Hope you're feeling better really soon. So when it starts to get warm, I bring one of my healing tables and have a nice healing practice outside. I also take my computer and my whole desk and move it out there. So to be outside the past couple of days, and even in the morning, it might be a little bit chilly, but with a warm tea, to be able to hear the birds and just feel the return of the light since the equinox is really just making my heart sing. So I'm feeling good.
I got a question for you. On your flyer, see, I'm kind of like not upset, but I understand because he did some strategic things when it came to marketing you. Did you notice the background on one of your flyers?
I thought it looked beautiful, but I didn't have my glasses on. I just thought like, oh, this looks so like it drew me in.
So he was like, I'm gonna see if she noticed it. It's the mountains by where you guys live. Cause I think you don't live far from him. So he was like, that's the way. And I was like, oh, that is awesome. I said that was amazing. Cause I thought it was beautiful too. And I thought it was maybe something that he found online, but it's actually the mountains in Asheville.
Wow. Did he take that photo?
Knowing him,
I just posted it.
Yeah, knowing him, he probably did because he's crafty like that.
It is really exceptional. Yeah, I can actually see, it's like the highway too, and the
Yes,
Blue Ridge Mountains. It's so beautiful here. You'll have to come visit one day,
I
Coco,
plan
and then
on
we
it.
can take you out for tea.
And I plan on it right after graduation because I finally finished. Yeah. That
Congratulations.
final grade hit, and I cried like a baby the other day, so I'm happy
Oh,
about that.
wow, that's another thing to celebrate.
Yes, and I will be with you guys soon. Hopefully, mid-June. I mean, yeah,
Really?
mid-June. Yeah, I should. I'm gonna come down.
Fantastic. Well, we're done. Maybe we could go find a waterfall together because, one of the
Yes.
things I would like to explore tonight is nature as medicine. And we have over 200 waterfalls in this area, Coco.
I love waterfalls too.
Yeah.
Well, since before we get, because I know we got a lot to cover. So, how about you tell everybody watching and listening a little bit about yourself, like whatever you want to share.
So, well, let's start. I live right here in Asheville. My name's Adora Winquist Soul because I also got married on November 1st. Uh,
Congratulations!
thank
Oh,
you.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you so
I
much.
love love, so I'm sorry. I got.
Me too. I am a romantic.
Oh
It
my
took me
God.
45 years to meet this incredible man who is really my match and best friend. Um, and colleague too, creative partner and so many other things. So I am not only a lover of love and romance, and I am a believer as well.
Oh, awesome.
Mhm. So I'm a mother. I have two beautiful daughters. Um, in fact, my youngest is going to be 11 on Monday, and that's Violet. So I have two flowers, and then my Lily is going to be 16 in on June 16th. So it's a really it's a big milestone and really a rite of passage.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a snippet into my personal world. Professionally, I have been working in the field of alternative medicine for 3 decades now. And the essential oils, aromatherapy, have really been the centerpiece of my career and my work, probably because they have been so intrinsic, foundational to my own journey of healing. So I write, I teach. One of my passions is creating sacred spaces for individuals to find their unique path of liberation, and through that to receive greater levels of fulfillment, and working through healing transgenerational trauma, right, our ancestral lineage trauma,
Mhm.
healing through that which we've carried through our soul's journey through time, and then how we can use these beautiful gifts of nature, from the earth to the cosmos, and practices like meditation and sound healing, in addition to the aromatics, crystal frequency medicine, because these medicines have been around since ancient times.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing is that science today, and more and more and more research is actually proving what those of us have known through
Mhm.
time, that these are tried and tested tools and techniques to help us truly drive that needle of transformation, of change, to become the change that we wish to see and be in the world.
Right. I'm gonna ask you more about the crystals though, right? Because that's
Oh,
my
good.
thing. But I'm glad you did mention like for 30 years, so you've seen how everything has evolved. And so like I work in healthcare as well. And one of the things a lot of our clients and like patients are starting to ask about are like holistic interventions and treatments and things like that. So I guess my first question is one, what inspired you to get
Mm.
into like holistic healing?
Okay, so this is really um, the longer that I am walking this journey of life, and the more I look back on some of these interesting little snippets that I'll bring in, it now I can see how so many of them connected and brought me to this moment. So when I was really young, I loved to be in nature. I mean, I still do, but as a little kid, a few years old, like I would leave the house and take off and spend the day walking in the woods,
Mhm.
pretty often. And at this time it was more common, right, for kids to go off on their own, and spend time in nature without the parents being so hyper vigilant, because of the evolving times. But
Mhm.
I did that because I felt nature was my place of refuge, of comfort, solace. And
Mhm.
my parents were wonderful humans who also had their own trauma and their own challenges in life. And so the spending time in nature and being able to listen to the plants and the flowers, and spending time with the minerals, and listening to the water, it was really what made sense to me, versus spending a lot of time inside the home where there was so much sadness and disappointment and a lot of dysfunction. And so I think that was like my foundation of connection, right? To be able to go out into nature, to listen to the spirit of all of these facets of nature, right? Whether it's the
Mhm.
birds or the crystals or the flowers and trees. Um, and then as I got older, I had a couple of kind of, I'd say, hallmark moments. One of them, I was about 16, maybe 17 years old, and I grew up in upstate New York. So another tip, Asheville or North Carolina is the seventh state that I've lived in during the course of my life. So growing up in upstate New York in Schenectady, we had
New
it
Yorker?
in the Adirondacks.
Oh man,
So
Bosco is missing this one. He's from the Bronx originally.
yes, that's right. I know, like that's another synergy, right?
Yes.
Um, So my mother and I used to go to this little bookstore. It wasn't really a store, it was someone's garage that had used
Mhm.
books, because this town, it had like the old timey soda fountain and one grocery store, and you had to drive 10 minutes to get to it. So on a rainy day when we couldn't be in the lake, my mom and I would go into town and go to this bookstore. And the
Mhm.
gentleman there started to save these books. So after we came a few times, he would have these books and say, "Here, these are for you." Like really interesting things, like old medical texts from the late 1800s and early 1900s, books on like Carlos Castaneda, on shamanism, on herbalism, esoteric books like by Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society, like first editions. And so I thought this was very cool, but also curious. Um, oh, I love that, Eunice. So he said to me, you don't remember who you are right now, but at one
Mhm.
time in your life, you're going to need these books. You're going to need this knowledge." And I didn't really think anything of it at that time until, of course, older, right? The older we get, the more parts of our life that we start to piece together. And
Mhm.
when I was a teenager around this time as well, I had very significant depression and anxiety, and had, thoughts rather often about not wanting to be here, having
Mhm.
to deal with the many things that were part of my early childhood dynamics, what I now call in my book our early childhood treasure map. Um, but at that time, it was very, very difficult for me, and I was sick a lot as a child. And so this is another element that kind of connects into my journey. When I was 18, I left New York and went pretty much as far away as I could to California. And I had an experience with a local shaman in Northern California for the fall equinox. And it was a earth-based, and we were just connecting in a very simple fashion, but profound. And something in that awakened this desire within me for a different way.
Mhm.
And it wasn't, too long after that, I had gotten a job at what we called then a head shop in California. It was called the Cosmic General Store. And so it sold crystals and more of these interesting books that I had found when I was a little bit younger. And that really just kind of led me to each next step.
Right.
And when I moved to Cape Cod, I guess I was about 19 or 20. I had bronchitis because I was sick so often as a kid, and I'd get allergies twice a year and be in bed for a few weeks. And I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't have health insurance. But I went back to that idea of the books and the herbs. And I went and I bought my first grouping of herbs, and I went home and I made a tea and was amazed by how quickly I healed. In
Oh,
fact,
you
that
gotta tell us
recipe.
the tea. You
Hmm?
can't mention a tea and not say what the tea was made.
I
You
know.
know.
Well, I'll share it because it's in my book. I'll share
Oh,
the recipe.
yeah.
Yeah, because
And what's the name of your book?
it's called Detox, Nourish, Activate: Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love. And it's by myself and a colleague who is a naturopathic physician, Dr. Lulu Shemek, who is also in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah.
And
So
where can
these
your book be purchased?
It can be purchased on Amazon. It can be purchased in a lot of Barnes and Nobles. And I know other bookshops. And usually I have it on my own website, but I'm sold out of it right now until I get some more. But definitely on Amazon.
Oh, I'm gonna purchase it tonight. As soon as
Awesome.
we
I
finish.
can put the link in.
Yeah. Also, if you can text that to me, so after the show, when I post, or
Yes.
when I do the I'm sorry, my camera did that. When I when I do the repost, I can put that information up as well.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. So, that's a bit of a snippet of at least how I found the herbs. And then, of course, the herbs brought me to the essential oils.
Yeah. Okay. I'm here. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, I can hear you, love.
I don't know what happened to my camera, but I can hear you. Okay. So how do you personalize like people who may come to you, like any treatments or any interventions or things like that?
Yes. Okay. So I guess for that, I should maybe give you a little bit more of my journey because it was the essential oils that then brought me to find energy healing. And so maybe some of your listeners and viewers have heard of Reiki. Have you heard of Reiki, Coco?
I have.
So that was the very first energy healing that I came across. So I had two parallels of study. One is the essential oils and aromatics, and then also the energy-based healing. And so I had this kind of funny experience in my first training. And when I received the attunement, I started to see colors around people. And I thought, well, this is, A, this is really cool. And B, how do I experience more of this? And why do
Okay.
the colors change when someone is feeling a certain way? When
Mhm.
they feel angry, why does the color change and movement change around them? Or when they feel joyous? And so I thought, well, maybe there is something here for me to be able to work with myself for, anxiety, for this depression, for not knowing what to do with all of the emotions that I later realized were part of just being an empath and being in an environment where there is a lot of heaviness and heavy emotion. And how do we deal with that, right? When we start to um, feel that within our own bodies and minds and spirits. So Reiki then brought me to so many other modalities of energy healing. And then eventually I found the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which is a 4-year program. So it's really the premier educational organization for professional energy healers
Okay.
globally. And so that 4-year journey really was an incredible awakening, because what I thought I was going to go and learn all of these healing skills, which of course we did, but it became a deeper distillation of my own path, right? And all of the places that had been in my past that I hadn't really dealt with until that point in time. So in that way, I've also been in practice as a energy healer and an intuitive facilitator over those 3 decades as well. And so that has really brought me to work with a lot of individuals that have experienced deep levels of trauma. So whether it's been hospice patients that are in their last phase and of life, of living or living as we know it, um, HIV patients in North Miami when I was living there.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I work with a lot of sexual trauma survivors, women and also men, and veterans, and those in the military community. Now, those aren't the only people that I work with. I also work with individuals that are looking to access states of peak performance or
Mhm.
to access the place within us that holds our divine potential, so we can step into the great truth of who we were all born to be. So that was a little bit of a snippet. Now I'm happy to tell you how I customized it, unless you have any questions
Oh
with
no,
that.
keep going. I'm very interested. But yeah, a couple of things is just interesting. All the things that you mentioned that can a holistic approach can be developed. For that,
Yeah.
especially like people. A lot of people don't think that there are holistic methods for things like um what is it called? Hospice and,
Hmm.
things like that. We think of
Right.
the most common things and everybody go to straight medicine as far as like medical healing, but nobody thinks about the mental health, the other pieces
Mm.
and other aspects. That's why I was saying so you've seen all of the evolution of
Yeah.
everything. So I'm gonna let you continue and then I got a question about
Sure.
that.
Yeah, it is a good point, though, to consider in terms of our evolutionary process and time.
Mhm.
Because even over the past 30 years, when I would say, oh, I work with essential oils for mind body healing, quite often it would be like, oh, that's really like, so airy fairy or woo woo or new age or all of these labels like, oh, well, that doesn't work. And so it's been to be in the path of the trajectory, right, of that
Mhm.
wave of consciousness that is awakening, and to see now all of the studies that are being done, to me is really so exciting. Even when I started working with hospice patients in South Florida, they hadn't had anyone that was working with oils and crystals and energy medicine. So I had to write a whole like report and presentation to be able to get that approved. And of course, now we know in hospice, even in hospitals, how many types of energy healing or aromatherapy. Now, maybe there aren't crystal
Yes,
therapies yet, but I would
that's
say,
good.
just give that a few more years, and it would be likely to see some of these other more innovative elements there as well. So just to kind of like play into that comment that you made, because I do think it's really important. I mean, even when I sold not this collection, but my first collection of chakra balancing oils into Whole Foods Market in 2009. And that first store was in New Jersey. Now, at that time, there weren't any other chakra balancing formulas on the shelf at Whole Foods, which, yes, it's a grocery store. And still, it's a grocery store, right? Even though they're innovative and doing things that a lot of places aren't. Now you can go into Whole Foods and you can see so many similar products, but at that time it was very new. And of course it was very exciting because, you know, the old adage, right? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. So when I was selling into like Tribeca and some of these other stores in Manhattan, it just felt really exciting for a gal from Schenectady, New York to be making oils on her TV table as a single mom with a little baby in the house and then taking them to sell them into Whole Foods Market.
That's interesting. I'm gonna give Whitley a shout out real quick.
Come through, entrepreneur.
No, so Whitley English, the amazing Whitley English, she was on here, and you know, she often checks on me and we talk, so she know a lot of stuff that I had been experiencing from dealing with, like, you know, sick family members, work, and at the time still school and everything, and still healing myself. So she has sent me this oil.
Oh my gosh, I love her. Like,
It's an emotional
freedom.
Yes. When I tell you. Then she also sent me this meditation video because I told her I do meditate. So she sent me the oil and she was like, and you put it in your left hand, like told me exactly what to do, how to breathe. Then with the meditation, when I tell you, I keep this in my bag. And this is what helped me get through, and it smells great. I keep it in my bag. I just wanted to say, and then because she told me like you mentored her, and I was like, oh, this is great. So when you spoke on it, I was like, when I tell you, this little bottle is it's amazing. So I just wanted to say that.
You just made my evening in two ways. One, to bring Whitley into the conversation because she is a rare gem.
Yes.
And a beautifully gifted healer in her own right with a beautiful heart.
Yeah.
I love her dearly.
Yeah.
And her little baby too. Peony.
Oh, she's so adorable. And then I was like, oh my gosh, because I know we had talked about it and with so much going on, a lot slipped my mind. And then when I came in, I was like, oh my God. So then I told her, I said, oh, I got it. You know, thank you. Then she sent me the video and exactly what to do. And I never forget. I'm real quick. So
I want to hear. I want to hear for sure.
So I was like at work and it was getting hectic. And I needed a breather. And I was like, oh shoot, my oil. And I don't know why it popped up in my head. You know, everything is just like hitting you, and like everything that could have went wrong. And then the phone calls that I got, and then it was the same day I had to submit my last paper for class. So I had to mentally prepare to write. And I lie to you not, I put the number of drops in my hand. I held on to it and I played that daggone video. And when I felt a lot better. Afterwards, and I was like, yep, she got my vote all day long. And I was like, when I tell you it's a game changer.
Oh, Coco, I'm so happy to hear that you had this experience because it's stories like yours that for me, when the days are really difficult, the perseverance, right? Taking the step, putting one foot in front of the other. You know, some days that's not the easiest thing, but stories like this propel me forward. So thank you for sharing that. And of course, like just so much love and gratitude to Whitley to for her presence and all of the ways that she's bringing the medicine to so many people. Coco, I want to tell you though, some of the oils that are in that formula, because there is some really rare and beautiful aromatics. And when I created this, this is from what's called the Sacred 8 collection. So it's 8 beautiful, like gem colored bottles, like the orange one that you have. For this one, emotional freedom is one of the most popular, because who doesn't want to feel emotionally free, right? So some of the aromatics that are in this, one of them, it comes from the center of the hibiscus flower, and it's called ambrette seed. It's a very rare oil, but it's what gives it that musk-like aroma, which is so deep. And also the geranium, which is a beautiful aromatic for emotional balance, right? And emotional resilience. And this is the gift of benefit that we can cultivate when we're using the aromatics and the formulas in a way of building new healthy habit patterns. This one also has some wild orange in it too. So it really gives that orange has mild antidepressant properties. So it is incredibly uplifting. Yeah. And I think now more than ever, this is the medicine, like the soul medicine, the spirit medicine that humanity needs to remember, because in times of great uncertainty and chaos, what happens? Well, our nervous systems go into just shock and overwhelm. And then it becomes very difficult in that state of fight or flight perpetually to find center, right? To find that receptive state where we can be restful, where we can understand, like, all right, so this was a big day, but I've got this. I'm going to come back to my center and ground down. So while you're mentioning this, I think it's worthwhile for anyone that is listening now or later to know that when you have the right essential oils and the right formulation, it truly is a game changer, because you can shift your mood, your energy, your mindset, your physiological response in the moment, because this is the direct connection between the nose, the olfactory system, to the amygdala, right? Part of the limbic system that regulates so much of our body, right? Our mood, our memory, our emotions. And when you can do this more and more often, well, then that oil, that little bottle in your hand, Coco, becomes the key to unlock that state of tranquility, of emotional freedom that you have been cultivating through your habitual use.
And I would like to also add, because the aromas, like when people think of musk, they think of something strong. It's very subtle. It's not overpowering. It's really soft. That's what I really, and it's, when you smell it, it's just like a, you know. So that combination with, like I said, the meditation that she sent me was amazing. And that's like my go-to whenever I feel that little shift in energy. So when I tell you, she sent me the best combination of, and it literally, I don't know if she was like heaven sent. I'm gonna tell you, because
she is like
that day it went, whoo, child. It was a lot. It was a lot that day, and I was just like, you know what, I gotta get my, because this ain't even me. I gotta get myself back, you know. And I sure did, and I was like, oh, because she kept telling me, because the first day I didn't have it. And I was telling her like some things that I was experiencing. And then she was like, where's your oil? And I was like, oh, it's on the dress. And I did it. It was on my dresser. So then she was like, no, keep it in your bag, your pocketbook, your coat, whatever it is that you have with you daily. And whenever you feel like that, or whenever, and she's like, you do that combination. And I lie to you not, I will keep this bottle in stock.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to make sure that we create a unique code for your audience so everyone that wants to can experience the products at an even better price, because I think you're fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I forgot. Let me welcome. I don't know if she probably doing something. Oh, Jude. Welcome, Jude.
Hi, Jude.
This is one of my
Hey,
closest
y'all.
friends. Yes. But the next question I had for you was, how do you, because with so much going on and with the evolvement of like medicine, especially like holistic methods are like on the rise, and a lot of people are leaning towards it. Even when I first started working in psych, and this was like years ago, even in inpatient, a lot of the patients did not want the medicinal version of methods. They wanted to lean on holistic. And at that time, years ago, it wasn't like it is now. I can honestly say, like, I don't work at that particular place anymore, but where I work now, even when I meet with my clients, whether I go to their house or wherever I go, when they're going through something, no matter whether it's mentally, physically, or whatever, the first question they ask is they want to be referred to a holistic provider. So how do you keep up with the ongoing research methods and everything like that's constantly evolving and coming up?
Oh, I love this question and really the focus of this conversation, because to me, it really sits at the heart of wellness and putting the power back to the individual to be more responsible and to feel empowered in their own journey of wellness. Because when I was just having this conversation earlier today with a client, that the medicine that we have is really incredibly important and functional for emergency, for surgery, right? Life saving.
Yep.
So it is a remedy of response in that way. And yet, in terms of prevention or in terms of bringing a cure, right? Bringing a remedy of response that transforms the inner terrain and the holistic terrain of the individual into one of wellness again, because the innate desire of our physiology, of our human design, is to return to homeostasis and to evolve.
Yes.
Right. So how do we evolve with a system of medicine that is never really addressing the prevention, right, and of health and wellness? Again, excellent for emergency, for surgery, but when we talk about, hey, I have this illness, right? When I was in my early, let's see, I guess I was maybe 19 or 20. When I started having incredibly painful cycles. And I went from 18 to 19 because I didn't have insurance, and I just dealt with it. But I was really suffering. And then finally, when I took a job and I had insurance, and so I went to the doctor, and basically the response was, well, you're a woman, you're born to suffer. And so here, let me write you the script for Oxy. And for someone that has a really addictive personality and depression and anxiety, both chronic and acute, that's not a solution. And it's also, really a potential for catastrophe. Exactly. So, through a number of years now, at 20, he wanted to do a hysterectomy. And I thought, that's crazy. How can that be here's medicine or here's surgery. I've had a number of surgeries, but that's the only option for me. There has to be, this can't be true. And I knew there was a place within me. I knew I was to have 2 children. So I said no. And I fired the doctor, meaning I never went back. He probably didn't notice or thought, oh, thank goodness she's gone. And I realized like the pain medicine is not getting me anywhere either. And neither are all these antibiotics that they keep giving me. So I've got to figure out a different way. And that's what brought me to more professional study from both the aromatic perspective, the essential oils, and then also vibrational medicine, and then these many other forms of holistic healing, right? Like sound frequency, like meditation. So when we're looking at a desire to heal, a desire to have greater well-being holistically, right? Because we're not just bodies. So if we're going to go to the doctor and say, listen, I'm not well, and here's a medicine for you. And when this medicine stops working, don't worry, we're going to give you another one, or you can just take more. So the medicine in that we have at our disposal here, in some ways, is disposable, right? And this is really a big part of our culture now, that everything, especially here in the US, seems very disposable.
Yeah.
And yet where is something that is going to truly make me heal, right? And return to the person that I know that I am still somewhere inside of me. And to me, like, this is the greater, where what we're really seeing is an awakening of consciousness, an awakening, taking off the blinders to say, oh, this isn't the only way forward. Look, there is this path, there is this path. What can I try? What can I bring together to support myself to heal? Because when we are stronger physically, well, then we have greater mental acuity. Maybe the decisions that we've been making, we realize, oh, this really hasn't been the best thing for me to do at this course in my life. And so I think that there's been a lot of control around the current medical practices in that way. And of course, the interdependence on big pharma, because if you look at the numbers right now of at our mental health statistics and how many individuals are on pharmaceuticals for depression as adults, but also children. And we know that once it's, the doctors that are prescribing medicine often aren't saying, well, here, you're just going to be on this very briefly. It's like, oh, here, take a little bit more. Here's a stronger dose. And, oh, now you're having this complaint. So we're going to bring this in. And this isn't a sustainable path of healing in any regard.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because even when it comes to like the medicine approaches, they're quick to be like, okay, here's this prescription that's going to do that. And I know at one point when people would be like, okay, I didn't want the medicine, it was like shunned upon in medicine for the longest time, because of course they want to make money off of pharmaceuticals. So again, like, even like doing what I do now, like I have, clients who are like, I'm not taking no medicine because they don't like the way it makes them feel. And that's why they lean to a more holistic approach, because it keeps them energized. It keeps them alert. They want to be alert to sustain a healthy life. And it's like, I want to be mentally balanced, so to speak, instead of being out of it. So, and when they do these methods, so I guess my next question is, because something that comes up often, and then sometimes what I find myself as being a part of the care team is I may have to reiterate or break, or I don't want to say dumb down, I don't like to use that term, but put it simplistic for them to understand. So what is your communication style? Like, how do you explain your methods to the people that you help?
So this is really a great question also. And one of the things for me that in the course of my work and career, both speaking in a presentation or to a group, or with an individual, or even writing, I continually find the need to distill it down to the most simple building blocks. And here's a very simple analogy to that. Do you hear any feedback, or is the audio okay?
No, you're fine.
Okay. So it was thought for the longest time that
It's echoing.
it is echoing. Yeah, I can hear it. It just started though.
Another thing,
So is it still?
I can't hear it. You know, I'm always having technical issues though. So
What do you think it could be though?
I'm not. It sounds fine now to me.
Jude, does it sound okay?
It's like it's still echoing a little bit, but it might just I don't know if it's just on my end, but I don't know if they can. I'm gonna go on YouTube and see. I'll tell you.
Okay, but you can continue.
Okay. So let's see. Here's my analogy. We used to think that going to the cave in the Himalayas for a few months of meditation was the only way to awaken our spiritual connection and reach those states of nirvana or bliss. But the truth is that if you commit now to a practice of 5 or 10 minutes a day, that's going to be far more effective than not doing anything at all. You don't need to go for a few months of meditation, although that's a wonderful thing to do if you have the time and space. But a simple practice of meditation, 10 minutes a day or less, the use of your aromatics, right? Like, this, Coco, when you combine them together, well, you're really anchoring not just an experience of well-being, but you are reshaping the neural pathways, right? You are forming, in terms of neuroplasticity, you're forming new ways of being, thinking, and feeling that are more healthful, right? You're increasing your immunity, you're decreasing the cortisol level, right, of the stress response from the body. You're enhancing your emotional outlook. So if you look at many of these nuances that we often take for granted because we're so much on the go, and just go like, oh, well, how did I feel before I started doing this? Like, oh, I just realized, like, I used to get really triggered when this would happen. And now I'm noticing I have a much more zen or chill response to that. That same thing doesn't bother me anymore. Well, what's happening? So what's happening is you're increasing your emotional bandwidth, your resilience. And resiliency is part of our human design because the human spirit was designed to triumph.
Okay.
And each and every person has this power within them. One of the systems that I created is called modern alchemy, or even tactical alchemy for our military community. And this is an idea that when we can engage multiple senses, right? The sense of smell with the aromatics, sound through either meditation on the solfeggio frequencies. And I teach about other elements like sacred geometry as well. Things that you can do, either a specialized form of tapping called EOBT, essential oil-based tapping, that I talk about in my book. And so when we can engage these multiple senses, well, our ability to heal in a sustainable way, to really become that change, like I mentioned, becomes more and more rapid. So I think that this is a really important reminder that people right now are tired of being tired and not feeling well and not feeling clear, right? Feeling dependent on a doctor to be able to say, here, this is the only way, take this pill, and maybe you'll have these side effects. And maybe, some of them aren't good, but don't worry. We'll get taken care of with this, with this pharmaceutical when you need it. And it's no longer sustainable for us.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that I've heard, um, it could be someone being treated for like, let's say like a anxiety or some form of like OCD or PTSD. And then the medication, they're like, okay, so one of the side effects is I may have suicidal thoughts. So it's like, do I want to be anxious or do I want to have you? And I think,
Right.
and that's another reason. It's very interesting because when I got my master's in psych, but one of the things that we had to do, one of the lessons, a lot of the lessons were on the different methods of like interventions and treatments, and holistic was one of them. And that's one thing that was in our like class discussion. It's like, how do you do that? So the one thing that a lot of people, that was the biggest complaint. Like a lot of us were already working in healthcare, but in different areas, and it was
Mm.
very interesting, also intriguing to see how many, no matter what area of the field that you work in, you had to still got the same similar feedback when it came to the treatment plans and the intervention methods. That and a lot of people were saying that their clients or their patients wanted to go holistic for those reasons, because like you stated, either they felt tired or they didn't feel cognitively aware and they wanted that function. So it's like, how do I live a normal life if I can't critically think or anything like that?
Yes.
So that was something that was like really, really major. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up.
Well, and feel as though that is really kind of like the preliminary symptoms of a much larger issue,
Hmm.
because the more that someone feels tired, or cloudy, right? Like, oh, I'm not really sure what decision, right? Like mental fog, and I'm just really not sure which way to go, or I feel really sad and really depressed. Um, and kind of in this vicious cycle. Well, how are they able to access the fullness of their potential?
Yeah.
And I think this is, the bigger issue, because when people are tired and not feeling well, then they're really easily controlled and told how to think and act,
Hmm.
and react.
Yeah.
And then we see more and more chaos and distortion and dysfunction. So to me, the question is, what would it take for more and more people to awaken to the power that exists within them, to really harness their lives and become the driver, to actually sit in the driver's seat? And I don't mean just driving the car to work every day. I mean, like, no, this is not how I want to live anymore. And to me, we're really at this precipice right now, which is why more and more people want holistic, because they know, like, I'm not just this physical body that is not feeling well. There's so much more to me, and I want more out of life. And it's not going to come from addressing a symptom with a pharmaceutical medication.
All right, and a lot of people and a lot of providers, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's intentional, because I know like we're taught now, even when I was getting my bachelor's, it was autonomy, and a lot of people don't understand they have autonomy over their care. You have a say so. You're a part of your care team. You're a significant part. You have the say so, and I noticed when I explained to her, like, okay, what were your other options? So when I advocate for like my clients, that's one thing that I have them to ask. Even if I'm not there, you can ask what are alternative options or something that you're comfortable with. And a lot of times people don't understand that they have that say so or those rights. And a lot of times they may see it, and that's why I always tell people, don't just sign something, read it, because a lot of that
Mm.
information is right there, and you're signing for that. So autonomy is like a big word that's being embedded, and it's like it's a thing where as though you have to let patients, clients, whoever know that you're working with, that they have that autonomy and they have the right to refuse or to withdraw at any
Yeah.
time. If they want that method, the provider is responsible to give them,
Mhm.
those resources because
Yes.
it's leaning towards more patient centered. So that approach.
Well, you bring up such a good point, and even Eunice, hi Eunice, she has a question here about why is the transition so difficult between traditional medicine
Money.
and the holistic approach. And so two things
It,
that I
you
I
hit it, money. They want the money for the
money
pharmaceuticals.
money is a really big one, and also like this great quote by Maya Angelou about like when you don't know what you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? But once you know better, then do better.
Yeah.
So, but how do you do that? So let's say like Eunice, right? Well, I know there's more out there. There is a holistic approach, but
Mm-hmm.
where do I go? Because A, it's often very expensive. So how do I find resources that are um, viable, right? That are actually credible, because then you also in this field you see people that, oh, I went to a weekend class and now I'm a master of all holistic things, right? And we know that that's also really not true. So I
Yeah.
think part of it is the intelligence and making that more accessible, which is one of the things that the Soul Institute, which is one of my kind of my legacy project, that making the information accessible for individuals is so key. The other part of this, I believe, is about authority, because from a very young age, we are taught to give our authority to someone else first, of course, our parents and our teachers and our religious leaders, and then eventually media,
Yeah.
magazines, television, politicians. So, so from the very beginning, how are we taught to think for ourselves in a critical way, to be able to shut the television off and disconnect from the technology of the phone, and like, oh, okay, why don't I just take a few minutes and go outside? Why don't I start there? Because we all have to start somewhere. And I love too consciousness, because yes, we are, in our evolutionary process as humans,
Mm-hmm.
we have this gift of consciousness and a ladder that we can continually climb to expand our understanding of what's possible, of what's true. And I believe that the truth is that humans, we are far more capable than we are ever taught or led to believe. And if from a personal perspective, right, of someone that didn't have the money to go to the doctor and had to use the resource that I had, which was the herbs and the books. Well, if I can do that as a very young individual with just a few dollars and or some good friends, right? Then it's possible for everyone. It's
Yeah.
possible for anyone.
That's true. My daughter, she got into um forgive me if I go off topic. She got into she's not quite all the way there. She's on her journey to holistic, whereas though she has cabinets full of like herbs and things like that, whereas though she makes like her teas. Like she has like any herb that you can think of, she has it. And so if I'm like, can you make this, where she makes like her own elderberry? She she'll like she has like the different books on different things. Like if you have a cold, congestion, she has all the herbs where she can make the paste or the tea or the concoction that she uses.
Amazing,
And
Coco.
that's her first method in like pharmaceutical medicine is her very last
Yeah.
choice. And for the most part, she doesn't have to go that way. It's like I've seen her, like even when it comes down to like my grandkids, when she give them a mixture, the fever is like gone like almost instantly. And I'm like, it's quicker than like a pharmaceutical. And I'm like, oh, those are the things they don't want you to know. So I backed off and I said, okay. And that's her method. So I think it is really good when you get educated and you know like what herbs are for what. And there's so many platforms and resources and tools that's available that let you know like what herbs, what things from nature that you can use for your benefit, even if it's just something like something that her and I used to drink all the time, like lavender tea.
Yes.
But it's so soothing and calming, and it's actually a good melatonin.
Well, it is so wonderful for the nervous system. I love that. What's her name?
Tasia.
Well, I just am so delighted to hear about that, and too. So that's what she's teaching her children, right? Your grandchildren. How beautiful.
She's very into nature and all the aspects of everything. So I'm gonna get through the questions so we can get back to the crystal, because I know when she watched the replay, that's what she gonna want to go to. Because if I don't ask, they gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question was, tell the audience about the launch of, forgive me if I always pronounce that wrong, the launch of mil-spec formulas.
Yes.
And the Invictus games.
Yeah, so this is such a great story. In fact, it parlays into what I was just going to say. In 2018, I was working out at the Veterans Healing Farm in Hendersonville, North Carolina, with the initial founder, John Massey. And it was just a beautiful experience of a herb garden. And we would bring the veterans out from the VA and teach them how to make their own medicine for sleep, for relaxation, medicine for energy, medicine for mood. We'd even do some distillation of essential oil, peppermint and tulsi, which is also known as holy basil, which is an incredible adaptogen. Of course, we wouldn't get very much essential oil. It would be mostly hydrosol, because you need a huge amount of quantity of the plant material to distill. But it was wonderful in terms of education and quite fun as well. And one of the things that I heard most from the vets was like they just wanted another way. Just give me a different choice. Isn't there another way that I can help myself to go to sleep other than this? So, one of the veterans was on 4 kinds of medicine just for sleep alone. So, so to me, I thought this is really so incredible, because this community, my father was a Marine who fought in Korea.
Mine too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We got so much in common.
I know, I love it. We're gonna have to stay connected. We're definitely going for that waterfall when you come here.
Absolutely.
So, my father and I were very close. In fact, for the last decades, really like best friends. And I saw how much he suffered in terms of what we now call PTS or PTSD. The nightmares, the ways that, because of course at this time wasn't spoken of, and the ways that many individuals that experience trauma deal with it is through addiction. And I know somebody mentioned something like that. Maybe we can come back to that comment too. So for the course of my career, I had really wanted to work with veterans, because I could never really give my dad the tools for him to be able to heal in the ways that I wanted to, or in the way that I wanted for him. So when I was here in North Carolina working with these individuals, I thought there's just such an opportunity. And my husband now, who also was a Marine, and then went into the Air Force and retired after 28 and a half years, about 2 years ago, the military. We came up with this concept of mil-spec formulas as adjunctive aromatherapeutics to support mental health for active duty and military veterans and their families and caregivers. And so we had this idea, and I went ahead and was excited. I reserved the domain for it and filled out some paperwork. And then it just kind of sat in a gestation when I finished the book and started the Soul Institute and some other projects. And then I got a call at the beginning of January this year, and it was a doctor, active duty in the Air Force, who had received my contact information and knew what I did with the essential oils, energy healing. And she started telling me about this team that she was building of best-in-class alternative medicine practitioners and technology. And as she's talking, my heart is just lighting up, and I am thinking like, well, this is, definitely something that I can get on board with. And she mentioned about the Invictus Games, which is, for those that haven't heard of it, Invictus Games was started by Prince Harry, or now the Duke of Sussex, about 10 years ago after his time in the British military, as a way to bring a sense of community, rehabilitation, of hope, of inspiration back to this community who experiences things that most of us cannot even begin to fathom, and how that imprints from the wounds that are both visible and invisible. And so it's kind of like a Olympic style event that's every 2 years. This one was in Vancouver. They had vets from 550. Well, actually, they weren't veterans because they're active duty, but out from some type of trauma, whether many, amputees, but also many with those invisible wounds. So 23 different countries, like Belgium, of course, Canada, of course, US, Ukraine, just remarkable people. And then all of their families who came to support them in these games, like wheelchair basketball, or if you can fathom this, have you ever heard of skeleton?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I thought, oh, well, that looks really interesting. And so one of the wounded warriors came up, and I said, well, isn't that scary? And he says, I don't know. I've never done it before, but I'm competing tomorrow. And I thought, well, that's just like, what do you mean? You don't have any training for that? You're going to strap yourself into one of these sleds? And another one of the wounded warrior came and said, yes, he had gotten clocked at 90 kilometers an hour and going around one of the turns 3 Gs. I mean, how can you not pass out from that kind of experience? So the courage, and even this idea of wounded warriors, I believe that this wounded warrior archetype is something that is held through the collective consciousness and ancestral lineages of most, if not all, of humanity. Because if we think back in time and our ancestors, right, and all of the wars that have been fought on this planet, all of the forms of abuse, right, and violence, and all of the aspects that really are so deeply traumatic, what we now call transgenerational trauma, and how this is passed through. I kind of term it, it's like a baton, right, from our ancestors. Like, oh man, this is still unresolved. I didn't get there, right? I couldn't clear it from my being. Here you go. Right now it's for you to take and to be able to transform and transfigure it within yourself for the future generations. And from a healing perspective, like, this is something that we've known, but more anecdotally. And now with the research that's coming out looking at how some of these forms of trauma, of PTSD, are actually showing up in generations. First, second generation is even showing more than the first generation of individuals. And when we look at the military community, right, and how the PTSD shows up in the family unit, that the children and spouse are 20 to 30% more prone to demonstrating these challenges, anxiety, depression, and we know addiction. And the truth is, like, I think it's a 20 to 22
ratio,
military individuals suicide daily, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we start to look at this, I know it kind of seems like I'm going maybe off or broadening a little bit in terms of the Invictus Games, but I'll bring it back in just a moment, because what I believe is that it's not only our potential that we have within us that we want to harness and capitalize, but it's also our responsibility to transform the places within us individually, so that our future generations can be different, that they don't carry that trauma and that density and that pain. And I say this because, looking at the all of the individuals that came in those 10 days during the Invictus Games, now here's Ukraine. So here's a country that is in active war.
Yep.
Right. Again, something that most of us really can't fathom. And so this is, it was a palpable energy, right? Apparent on the faces, whether or not the individual had, none of what we would call the visible scars of war, of trauma. And at the same time, such a receptivity to the aromatics. I've got some funny stories from that. I'm not sure if we'll have time for them, but really to be able to bring these medicines, right? This is a form of plant medicine, and the essential oils are the most potent form of plant medicine that we can use in a sustainable way, right? I'm not talking about hallucinogenics or ayahuasca or anything like this. I mean, something like that is derived from lavender, which is an excellent nervine, or from cinnamon, which helps to boost immunity, right? Or from basil essential oil, which helps to activate beta brainwaves. So the launch of mil-spec formulas there, to me, was like living dream, right? That had been just waiting to come forth. And so I gave out about 1,000 little bottles of these new formulas. We have one, Rest and Relax, for sleep. And so here's the cool thing about doing an event for 10 days is, I had people that would come and get some, one of the products that's in a roll-on, and I tell them how to use it. And I had one woman from Team New Zealand who said, I haven't slept more than 3 hours a night since I can remember when. So I gave her the R&R, Rest and Relax, that has lavender, that has chamomile, oils that are now very well researched to calm and balance the nervous system and move us into a deep state of restoration through our body-mind connection. And so she came back, I guess it was maybe like, I don't know, a few days. She goes, well, I've used it. She said, now, the last night I slept 4.5 hours. Like, this was an epiphany. Like, this was a game changer for her. She came back the next day. So she was like coming back to update me, which I was loving, right? Because this was a brand new collection just launched at this event. Well, she came back towards the end. The last 2 nights I've slept 8 hours each. Right? Like, now it went from like a game changer to a miracle of an experience. So this is the power that can be in a very small bottle when used in a way that is habitual and very specific.
I had a question. It wasn't on a thing, but when you were talking, it made me think of something that that came up, another discussion that we had in class. Another thing that was like driven to holistic was cultural. A lot of cultures are driven to holistic methods. Have you ever ran into like a cultural experience where you had to shape something, design it based on a person's cultural background, or is that something they just come to you already prepared and knowing what they want?
Oh, this is really this is a great question. So the first thing that I'm thinking of was I was leading a retreat here in Asheville, and one of the women came to me, and she said she hadn't had her sense of smell for like over a year from a virus. It wasn't COVID, it was some other illness that she had. And one of the things that I like to do in a retreat setting is to teach everyone to make their own medicine. So I bring all of my oils, and then I'll teach them how they get their own little bottle, their own, notebook, and then it can be crafted for something specific, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And so this was the area that she really wanted to heal. And one thing that she had shared, she was really a very intuitive, very spiritual woman. And she said that her ancestors had been coming to her, and that part of what the call was for her at this time in her journey was liberation. Her own liberation. And this is where, when we start to understand the power of ancestral lineage healing, we come to see that when we are doing that sacred work to liberate ourselves, that it becomes liberation for our ancestors. And this is such a beautiful part of our human interconnectedness. Right? That even though when our family pass on, they're still very much connected, right? And we can still feel them and often hear them. So when she was making her formula, she had put her oils in it, and she's like, Adora, do you have any tobacco? And I said, oh gosh, I only, I happen to have a little one. It wasn't something that I typically bring with me. But that was the call. Because of her family line and the areas that we're calling for liberation, right? The tobacco, like picking the tobacco in the fields, especially in this area here in North Carolina, a lot of tobacco farms in the past.
Okay.
And so I said, I don't have it, but why don't we, I'm going to teach you something, which is how we can access the frequency essentially of a plant when we don't have the biochemical aspect, because that's part of my training and education. So I went up, and everyone was kind of like just watching, because we were in more of like a classroom setting at this point, so everyone could be having a surface to be able to blend their oils on. So we did this, and then I just stepped back to let her have her experience. And within a few minutes, she just had tears running down her face because that frequency addition into her formula enabled her to be able to smell.
Oh, that's amazing. We might gotta bring you to Baltimore.
Yeah, I like Baltimore. I've been there. Great show.
So I guess that drives me to the next question, though. So, because I know we touched on like essential oils and things like that. Can you dive a little bit deeper into how to use essential oils? Of I guess examples and what the benefits are.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that has been a great teacher for me in my journey outside of things in a classroom setting is the fact that I've also walked the journey as an entrepreneur. And when I was building my last essential oil brand, which I then sold a number of years ago, I had the opportunity because I built it like store by store by store. And then eventually the stores, we were selling up to like 400 stores in the US. And then some overseas sales. So I was doing a lot of trade shows, a lot of, going into the stores and talking to people. And I had about 100 reps that were also selling my line. So it was a lot of education. And in that process, it gave me like that grassroots, very tangible, in the moment feedback, right? This, and then in addition to my practice, doing deeper work with individuals with trauma and other experiences, like you wouldn't think that so many locations of health food stores or spas or boutiques would become a wealth of intelligence of data, but it did, because very quickly you could see how something would work for an individual. And so it gave me a chance to really refine how I recommended people to use an aromatic. So we'll do a little tutorial here. Okay. So this is one of the formulas for mil-spec. So this is the mil-spec formulas. And part of the design of this collection is the first, like the immediate target is to meet the moment, right? In this moment, what do you need to find more relief, right, within your body-mind connection? So the regulate one is about balance, emotional resilience. So it has aromatics in it, like blood orange, right? I mentioned orange before. So blood orange, very uplifting. It also has ylang ylang, which is an excellent hypotensive, which helps to lower the blood pressure, right? Which is part of our stress response. Often can be an increase in this is one of the most popular ones at the and it also has some bergamot, which helps the brain to produce GABA, and GABA helps to lower our anxiety. Right? So for anxiousness, for moments of feeling like either really low or like I'm like this and I need to come down. So it's all about regulation, right?
Which one is that one?
It's called Regulate by mil-spec. I'll get you some of this, Jude. So regulating the nervous system. And so this is the now there's a few ways to use it, but this is the go-to. So you put a little bit on the palm of your hand. We do this because the palm is like a vacuum energetically. It's an energy center, like a chakra, but a smaller one that pulls up both the biochemical aspect of the aromatic, but also the alchemical. So if we think about this just for a moment, well, biochemically, right? Like we're a walking pharmacy. We've got to create the right conditions in our physiology to balance our neurochemistry depending on what we need to meet the moment. And then from an alchemical perspective, well, the alchemical aspect is spirit, right? Our soulfulness, that kind of fifth element, the quintessence, that which is felt, not always seen. So
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons that the aromatics are so effective for us from a physical level. So, so we got it on the palm. So what's the next thing we want to do? Well, you want to breathe it in. So breathing it in through the nose, you can exhale through the mouth. Now, whenever you're looking to find a sense of calm, and we can all do this together right now, even without an aromatic.
I got one. Let me do mine. Hold on.
Dude, I'm so sorry you don't have one. We got to get you a bottle.
I got one in the closet somewhere. I just don't feel like getting up. My dogs is running me wild right now.
Oh gosh. So
I like demonstrations.
with the breath, and this is a breath work practice. Now, breath work is a wonderful alternative medicine wellness modality. So take a breath in through the nose, and Coco or anyone that has an aromatic, if you are breathing that in now, also breathe in your intention. And everyone, Jude, breathe in your intention. What is it that you desire to feel right now? And for those of you that have an aromatic, well, that intention is becoming anchored in your brain, blood, bones, through your entire physiology. Now, your exhalation, let's exhale through the mouth a little bit longer. Of course, closing your eyes helps, right? So now to just walk us through this together, you're going to inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth, a longer, slower exhalation. And this is also helping to activate the vagus nerve, right? Which is the longest cranial nerve in the body, coming down from the back of the neck all the way down through the midline of the body, all the way down to the large intestine. So now the technique is that you're going to do this for about 45 seconds. So maybe about 4 of these long breaths. So inhalation through the nose, breathing in your aromatic, making the direct connection to the amygdala, to the hippocampus, the limbic system, and very quickly, if not immediately, activating the parasympathetic nervous system for a more restful, it's known as rest and digest. But really, it's
good night. Yeah. I love this smell. I'm just Jude, I'm gonna get you one.
My head.
Emotional freedom. Let me tell you, girl, this saved my life that day. Because I was about to wish up wood.
Well, listen, I've collected a few different, oils that have different meanings to them. I didn't understand a lot of them, so I haven't used a lot of them. But I notice when I do use them, I don't think I'm using them right, but I notice my mood depending on what I'm using.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your favorite, Jude?
Huh?
What's your favorite that you've
got? I don't know. I just be buying stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have a fave. I'm still in the learning stage. I had to get out of the just buying it because it smelled good. I was one of those like I buy it because it smelled good. It spoke to me. But I'm learning, so I don't have a favorite yet. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm learning about all of this.
That's awesome.
Great though. When you get it, if something speaks to you, that's usually you connecting with it. So that's like a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started my journey a little different. I started with like the affirmations and the meditations and the clarity, little sage here, little sage there, maybe find a crystal go and pick a crystal, the ones that speak to you, then research it just a little bit. I'm still very rusty, but I do plan on, learning more because I'm so into it. Like,
That is awesome. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Well, you might like my book too, because it also talks about the crystals and the meditation and all of the herbs, as well as the essential oils and even nutrition too, because all of these tools, every person is unique, just like you have a unique fingerprint, right? There is a unique formula to unlock that potential within you, where your body and mind and heart and soul line up and then light up, right? And this is how we truly become that change that we desire to see and be in the world. Yes, Coco, I'll definitely text you the links after the show. I'll be happy to do that. But I do want to come back and finish answering your question on a little bit more of how the aromatics work.
Okay.
Because, just tapping into this idea of using them via inhalation, there's another really profound aspect with the essential oils, because they have the rare ability to pass through the blood-brain barrier. Now, some of them more than others, depending on their chemical properties, right? Like frankincense is known for its incredible, versatile healing properties. And this is an oil, like there's a mil-spec, this one is for pain and inflammation, and it has 2 kinds of frankincense in it. So when the oil is passing through the blood-brain barrier, well, that means that wherever the blood is flowing within your body, then the full gamut of the essential oil, right, the phytonutrients are moving throughout the body as well. And this also means, because of this fact, which is due to the size, right, the molecular size, how small they are, but also that they are lipid soluble, so they're fat soluble versus water soluble. So this is also a beautiful process that the aromatics can then pass through the cell wall. Right. So you've got over 50 trillion cells in your body. So the aromatics, from both the biochemical and the alchemical aspect, are able to pass through the blood-brain barrier, through the cell wall. And part of my work is working with them. So we're healing these aspects of our transgenerational trauma. And so knowing that they can pass through the cell wall, well, what's inside of your cell? Your DNA. So this, to me, this is really the medicine of our future. And it comes from the earth, and it comes through frequency. So there are all of these elements of the plants. Now, of course, you can put them on topically, diluted, because sometimes they can be irritating to the skin or phototoxic if you go out in the sun with citrus oils. This is a field where a little bit of information can be dangerous, especially with many companies out there that say, oh, this oil can cure cancer. But I will say along those lines, and I just heard this the other day, that there is in Tennessee, I believe, a clinic that is using specific plants, including frankincense essential oil, to address a type of brain cancer that affects the cerebellum, with really significant positive results.
That is amazing. You are teaching us tonight. We have a question before I get to the next question. It's a really good question. From Ham Radio. When you get not that part.
I know you was not going to read the whole thing.
That's what I was. Oh my God, that was funny. Okay.
The one on knowing? Laughter, levity are also medicine, Coco. So
Yeah.
laugh it up.
Look, you never know what I told you I need help sometimes. Okay. What is the importance of knowing who you are, knowing what you are, and knowing what you want when it deals with manifestation? So he took it to a whole nother realm. I was gonna get into that later. But we can jump into it now.
Yeah, let's dive deep. Because to answer this question of knowing, we really need to be curious about what it means to know and to be curious about our mind. So when we start to look at the mind and definitely differentiating between the brain and the mind. So think of the brain like your supercomputer, right? You're big, like this is the computer of all computers. Think of your mind as the program or programs that run on your computer. So from the moment of your conception, your subconscious mind is recording everything. Thoughts, feelings, experiences, right, that are in utero, right, through your mother, through the environment with your mom, because we also know that 3 generations, right, from the womb through our mothers, right, of physiological connection of both feelings, patterns of thinking, and belief systems and emotional connections, health and well-being are tied. We know that for sure right now, 3 generations. And of course, what I see in my work is many, many more. But I don't want to digress on that. I want to come back to the mind here.
Okay.
So your subconscious mind is like the video recorder. So it's recording everything in black and white. No gradation.
Like fruit? Is it? No, I don't think it was fruit. It was one of those theories about the subconscious mind and how it influenced like your reality and all of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
So exactly, Coco. So this is where I'm going with that. So your subconscious mind is really the undercurrent, the background program that is always running. So we tend to think, okay, hey, I just made this decision to go here or to spend my money here or to come into this relationship or to eat this or drink this or whatever a substance may be, or to say this to someone, whether it's a lover, a parent, a child, a boss, a stranger, right? And so we think, well, I made this decision myself. But the truth is that 95, 6, 7, 8% of the decisions that you make all day long are coming from those subconscious patterns and programs that were formed through the course of your life, and primarily through your core developmental years, which are from conception to about age 10.
Camilla.
Yeah, those are the most influential years of a person's development. And
yeah.
I'm
So,
with you.
so think about this, right? So everything that you witnessed in your home, how love is shared or withheld, right? How communication is, money, religion, all of these aspects of living. So when we say, well, how do I know who I am and what I really want? Well, the first thing we have to do is really start to be curious with the question, well, who have I thought that I am? Yeah. What do I really believe to be true about myself and the world around me?
Yep.
What do I believe to be true about women, about men? This is also part of our subconscious patterning, right? And all of these ways that we tend to limit ourselves. And the truth is that most of what we think and feel isn't even ours to begin with. Yes, Jude, come. Um, and so how do I know what I want? So first thing I say is, one, you've got to still the mind, which is very uncomfortable, especially now in this age of technology where we are more and more addicted to the phones and devices for the dopamine rush now that's rewiring our brain and nervous system to just want more and more and more of this very, very quick fix. So we need to like get away from the phone.
I mean, I'm following you. Can you explain dopamine? Because we mentioned that a lot. And I think that's a real significant piece in a lot.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about this. So
Dopamine is
you
something
as
else.
a pharmacy, you're a walking pharmacy. So your brain, your supercomputer, when you can create the right conditions for it, right? Just like when you have enough memory or speed, right? Things start to work really, really well. So the dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, like these and endorphins, right? Endorphins we get from exercise. Like, oh, it feels so good. Like, how do you feel after a workout? Invincible.
Yeah.
Right? I started doing hot yoga.
Yes.
So dopamine, feeling good. Oxytocin, feeling connected, comforted, cared for. Serotonin, like, oh, it's like, okay, I'm really not depressed.
Yeah.
I just needed to like balance my neurochemistry. So these are the elements where the plants, going into nature, putting that phone down and going outside for a walk, right? Because even looking at the greenery helps to balance our neurochemistry, to balance the nervous system, and to yeah, same here. We could chat about this for hours because there are so many ways that we can truly remember who we are, why we're here, and empower ourselves in ways that don't cost $1 million. Because even the $1 million and all those shiny baubles are not going to bring you the fulfillment that your soul calls for, right? That liberation, that putting that phone down and going out and either looking at the ocean or the mountains or taking your shoes off and walking barefoot. So you're getting all those negative ions from the earth because the earth is medicine, right? That's boosting your immunity. It's balancing your nervous system just by walking barefoot. Of course, in an area that does not have contamination from, you know, all of the pesticides like the Roundup and synthetic chemicals that we put on to grow grass, which is, you know, completely bizarre.
I want to go back to something that you said that stuck out to me. And it's something that I think we've said up here quite a few times, especially when it comes to knowing who you are. And kind of exploring that whole method. And you mentioned being uncomfortable. And a lot of times I've used that saying as well when I'm like with my clients or whatever. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable to get before you can get comfortable. So you have to address those things. And I think when we mention our upbringing is what kind of shapes our personalities. Like our environment also feeds into it. So you can have two people from the same environment, but maybe different household. That household will shape that behavior, how you react in situations, how you do certain things. And that's also significant that I think a lot of us don't pay attention to because we may feel like, oh, we come from the same place, but our inner environments may be completely different. So I wanted you to kind of dive into that, but I want you to include something else with it, which brings me to the question, which is that I want to give you a two-parter. So it's that, and then can you explain how vibrational medicine for like mental health, such as like anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and how that can all come?
Yes.
I kind of link them together for you.
Okay, yeah. And I'll like weave a little bit more of the knowing too.
Yes.
So I can answer that for hand radio, because just like we're talking about right now about some of these subconscious patterns, so much of knowing ourselves is unlearning,
Mm-hmm.
is letting go of what we believe to be true,
Yep.
of letting go of what we believed defines us, limits us, right? Those glass ceilings. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way we can do that is to take the journey within. And so through the modern alchemy process, one of the pillars is the love frequency, because the true journey that we're called to is the one that comes into the heart, right? To be able to find that presence of love, of peace, of divinity that exists within each and every one of us. Because you can't buy that. You can have millions and millions of dollars, but you can never buy that. So in ways that you can come into the stillness of your own being, right? Like a beautiful saying, be still and know that I am God, right? We hear this a lot in spirituality. Going into nature, spending a little bit of time in quiet, and then you'll start to hear the voice of truth and wisdom that exists within you. You can't hear it if you've got all of these things that you're inundating yourself with, right? Because those are other people's voices, but they're not your own. So when you can come into know thyself, and this is the premise of really all spiritual teachings, right? And this premise to know thyself. Well, to do that, then we got to turn off the television, and we gotta like put that phone down and go and commune with the mother of all mothers, which is this earth, because Mother Earth gives us all that we require to nourish our bodies, but also our minds, our hearts, our spirits, the crystals, right? All of these other medicines.
I'm sorry. You know I love crystals and stones, and I know we might not have enough time, but when you get from that, because Jude also makes jewelry and she uses stones and things, so that's another reason why I wanted to like kind of get to that too. And I love like hematite. I love my right.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I'm
so let
trying to
me
get
address
into
that, but I
jewelry
want to make
break.
sure that I'm answering the rest of your questions. Did I miss any other part?
I got excited. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's like all of these threads that we want to bring together in the next 10 minutes. But I could always come back.
You can come back.
Yeah.
We need to dive into those because
So
that's
we're gonna be in the van on our way to you.
Yeah, right? Come on down, ladies.
right.
So so what was the other part of the last question that I didn't answer?
Explain vibrational medicine.
Oh yes, vibrational medicine. Okay. So we used to believe that that matter was something that was very finite, right? We also used to believe in terms of like the Cartesian teachings of science that the mind and the body were completely separated. But now the truth is that we know that all matter is energy that is vibrating at a specific frequency, everything around you. So the places within your being where when you think about something and then you start to not feel very good, whether it's like, oh God, I'm overwhelmed, I'm afraid, I'm really sad, I feel like I don't know what to do, right? So this is an energy that is connected emotionally through your being. So vibrational medicine is coming to use things like aromatics, right? They have a very high vibrational frequency. A sound healing, like the solfeggio frequency, right? Specific frequencies that are now being researched to show how they can support the nervous system to restore itself, right? Like a 432 hertz is considered the harmony of the spheres. If you play that on any channel that you can stream, you're bringing a harmonious vibrational medicine into your environment simply and easefully, which will help to shift the energy and the matter, right? The emotion, the ways of thinking all around you. So there are many forms. Flower essences, gem essences are forms of vibrational medicine. Meditation is one of the most incredible forms of vibrational medicine that will completely restructure your brain, that will completely help to activate the pharmacy, right? And really optimize your supercomputer, and then make sure that the programs that you have running are the ones that you want to be running, ones where you are expecting health and happiness, not you're expecting further disappointment and the other shoe to drop, right, in the next moment, but you don't realize it.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I learned with like meditation, I'm big on it, but a lot of people will meditate like, oh, it doesn't work for me. And I always tell people, you have to tune out what's around you. You can't say I'm a meditate, but then you got the TV on, you got all of this. You have to be somewhere that's secluded, where so either you have silence and whatever it is that's positive that's going through your ears and those waves. So we always talk about frequencies and waves and anything that like goes and penetrates our mind. So you have to kind of like focus.
Yes. You got to harness that power that's inside of you. Well, so here's the thing. So consider it like curating the energy, your energy, and the energy of your environment.
Yeah.
So if you have clutter around your space, that doesn't make it very conducive to like, oh, I'm going to sit here and just calmly focus for a few moments and feel restful. So there are elements like this that I also want to connect in this moment to say that one of the most, I would say, revolutionary changes that everyone that's listening can make right now is to understand that your word is your wand.
Yeah.
So there's a wonderful thought leader that was alive in the 30s in New York City, Florence Shin. And she had these groups. It was called like the truth meetings she would have. And in these meetings, she would teach individuals, well, okay, so you're telling me that this keeps happening in your life, and yet everything that you've said since you've been here is a confirmation, a reaffirmation that this is happening. If you continue to say the same thing, you're going to continue to experience the same outcome.
Results.
Yeah.
Very true. We have a question from Paul. You want to take it? What could or would cause cloudiness in your holistic thinking and journey? Could you misread something and or someone incorrectly by their actions because of preconceived thinking or occurrences? Answer it.
Oh.
See, my psych brain just got triggered, so I'm gonna just go ahead and let you.
Well, and then I'll give you the baton and you can answer it too, because this is such an important question. Thank you so much, Paul. So Paul, when we start to look at another individual and we're looking at their behavior and we have a desire, well, I want to really understand this. I want to be holistic in my comprehension of what's happening here. It's so important to know that there are elements of projection and transference, which are kind of fancier ways for saying subconscious patterns of experience, because everything in the subconscious is the past. So when we have a preconceived notion, when we're making an assumption about someone based on their actions, it really is coming from more of our own lens of the past and past experience versus seeing things clearly in the moment. And there's a beautiful saying that I love to share in group, which is you're either in presence or in pattern. And what that means is you're either in presence in the power of this present moment, because this moment is the only place that anything can be different, true, or possible. So you're either present in this moment right here, right now, wholly here, which means you have no preconceived notion about anything because you're wholly right here, or you're in pattern. So when you're in pattern, it means that you are running a pattern of the past that's held in your subconscious. So how can we start to understand this? Well, first, it's inviting in a new way. And this is a wonderful intention, affirmation, practice, prayer that's very simple. Infinite Spirit, open the way for the fullness of my clarity, my most joyful life of abundance and truth to open, to be made manifest. And when we start to call it in, because we have angels and guides and guardians all around us all the time, but because we have free will, we have to ask for help. We have to name it, we have to call it in, and then we have to claim it, which means, okay, so I understand maybe I have a preconceived notion. I want to be fully here right now. And I'm going to know that I got to be compassionate and kind with myself because it's going to take practice to create a new pattern. And this is where your aromatics are so key. Paul, I miss you too. I just need a little hiatus so I can finish the next book.
Oh, we're getting a book number 2?
Yes. It's called The Love Frequency.
Oh, so you're going to come back when we launch the book? Because we still got a whole lot that we did not discuss tonight.
Oh, we've got tons of wisdom we haven't discovered.
When can you come back?
Soon. When?
We're here every Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get a date on the calendar.
Okay. We definitely will talk because I want to keep going because we only got like 4 minutes. And
I know. It's like we just got started.
I know, but that's like amazing. But Paul question is really interesting. As I listen to you, because we definitely got like a lesson tonight. Yeah. And like, it was very thorough. It was very moment, but it's interesting how the holistic part and also like the traditional, like far as like research studies. Theories, because everything that you said was triggering like theories that we study as far as like when it comes to psychiatry, the brain, and when it comes to like mental health. So, but they explain them a little differently. Like what you explained to Paul, we would consider that like a personal bias. And the personal bias pretty much like you explained comes from your environment, your upbringing, but they just have, I guess, more technical terms, but it sounds so soothing when you say it and complicated when we say it because but I think for me, the holistic approach is a soft approach. When I look at it, it's softer, it's more personable, and it's also welcoming. Because just think about how you explain that, and if I come behind and I'm meeting with someone, and I'm like, well, you know, and I explain it as like a personal bias, and I'm using these terms, and even if I use something different and say that's because when we say when you are in your own head and your own way of thinking, and you can't see someone else's perspective, so you like start to prejudge, and you have those biases, and a lot of people don't understand that they have them. So, but when you say it sounds so soft and welcoming, you be like,
yeah,
let me work on that. Like
like the holistic approach is like, get up here, let's dance. And the medical treatment is like, everybody like
You gotta
kung
get a middle
fu
finger.
fighting, right? You feel me? Like it's just like two
Right.
different approaches. It's like yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's funny because I actually not here, but I actually had a client before, and they were so like motivated and fixated on whole. They didn't want anything unless it was holistic, and you know, a lot of this was like before, like now. I think that the tools and the resources are readily available and they're making it a part of like even when it comes to insurance, where insurances are paying for holistic medicine. So that shows how far it's come. Where years ago, most providers would not even refer to holistic providers. It was like unheard of. Now it's like the conversation, the door is open for holistic approaches. And I think that's the beauty of it. And it goes back to that word autonomy, where you do give the patient or the individual autonomy over how they approach whatever it is that they need to, you know, adjust or reconstruct or however you want to, you know, word it as a part of their treatment plan. And I think that's a beautiful thing to know and to know more of. And I think when people get the education like what you just did tonight, is it highlights and it makes people want to dig deeper.
Yes, exactly. Because this is just the beginning. And the beauty is because every individual is so unique that each one is going to take a little tidbit, a little golden nugget of wisdom that resonated within them. They're going to take that and run with that and then go down that rabbit hole of study, of research, of experience, of understanding, of coming into new levels of empowerment within, because that is the whole goal, is that authority is within you.
Yes. We definitely got to bring you back.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. But I want to really thank you. Thank you, Whitley English, for introducing me to the lovely Adora. Like, you guys are amazing. Thank you, Jude, for filling in for Bosco, who's, you know, under the weather today. So let's keep him uplifted in prayer.
Yes.
Thank you, Cole. Thank you, just right for me. It's like, no. Eunice, Richie, J Bear. I know Bosco's watching. Tiffany, Tiffany. Everybody else. If I forgot your name, I humbly apologize. I can't do it like how Bosco do it, but we love everyone for supporting us and watching. Please tune in next Wednesday. Hopefully, I'm gonna try to get her back next Wednesday, but as soon as possible. And I will repost where you can find her book, the link where you can find her oils and any other additional information if you want to reach out to her. That will be on the Casual Convo Facebook page and YouTube channel and Instagram. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Coco. I adore you. Jude, I adore you. Big hugs. Love to everyone. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Yo.
Bye.